Good morning, Chairman Byrne, Ranking Member DeSaulnier, and distinguished members of the subcommittee. My name is Joe Paduta. I'm the president of Comp Pharma, LLC. We're a consortium of workers' compensation pharmacy benefit managers. I have 34 years experience in medical management areas and workers' comp with a specific expertise in workers' compensation pharmacy. Helen Knight and I founded Comp Pharma 16 years ago to research pharmacy issues in the workers' compensation space and advocate for solutions to drug issues in workers' comp. Our focus is really on patient safety, and it's on the effective use of evidence-based guidelines. I work with regulators, large insurers and employers, state funds, claims administrators, and state governments related to issues surrounding pharmacy. Excuse me. Over a decade ago, workers' compensation payers began to recognize the opioid issue. They noticed that injured workers were getting opioids for simple back strains, which is wildly inappropriate given the prescribing guidelines from the FDA. Folks with opioids had longer durations of disability, and those patients could not work while recovering due to opioids. You do not want somebody taking opioids, teaching your children, or driving a school bus, or operating the forklift. They saw indications of diversion and evidence of patient deaths associated with opioid prescriptions. Since then, the industry has made great strides. Comp Pharma's latest data indicates the workers' comp industry has reduced opioid spend by over 1/3 in the last 2 years alone, and by over half over the last 5 years. Unfortunately, when it comes to dealing with the opioid crisis, the Federal Employee Compensation Act and administrators are 5 or 6 years behind the rest of the workers' comp industry, and time is running out for patients who've been taking opioids over an extended period of time. The DFEC's initial effort at opioid controls are far too permissive and wildly inconsistent with all credible opioid guidelines. Prescribers are allowed to prescribe 2 different opioids at unlimited dosage for up to 60 days. As Ramona just indicated, that's considerably inconsistent with all state guidelines, especially ones that are evidence-based. Most guidelines allow no more than 7 days, and then only if prescribing meets stringent tests. Specific examples of governmental agencies making great strides include Ohio under Governor Kasich's strong leadership. The state has seen the number of opioid-dependent injured workers in the Bureau of Workers' Compensation fall by 19% last year alone, and that was the 6th year of significant decline. After 6 years of smart policy and tireless efforts, there are 4,700 fewer workers at risk for addiction, overdose, and death, thanks to the efforts of the pharmacy program directors, first John Hanna and now Nick Trago, the medical directors and administrators at BWC. This reduction in opioid use will also save employers and taxpayers millions of dollars in Ohio. Washington State Fund has been the leader in fighting opioid misuse. Working with other state agencies, Dr. Gary Franklin and Dr. Jamie Mai have been instrumental in reducing opioid usage. Today, less than 4% of drug spend in the state of Washington workers' comp is for opioids. Since 2014, California State Compensation Insurance Fund has reduced the number of opioid scripts by 60% and reduced the number of patients taking high levels of opioids from 1,458 to 186. As a state-regulated industry, workers' comp has shown us what works and what is not effective. It's taken FECA far too long to even begin to address the opioid crisis. Then, the policy of allowing 60 days of 2 different opioids is wildly inconsistent with all credible guidelines. FECA must move now to build an approach to prevent further needless deaths among its 27,000 chronic opioid-using patients. This should include random drug screening for all patients prescribed opioids, not to be confused with pre-employment or employment drug testing, require prescribers utilize written screening tools, require opioid agreements signed by the prescriber and patient, require documentation of changes in functionality and pain, and for chronic users, understand each patient is unique. I'll close with this. Some may be concerned that FECA or its PBM will try to replace physicians' decision-making authority. Physicians want to do the right thing. Getting their patients off opioids is absolutely the right thing. And physicians often don't have the training, education, tools, or understanding to do this. It is FECA's job to provide that education, training, and guidance. Thank you for listening and for taking action.
Thank you, Mr. Peduta.